Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, something about the Clippers brings the best out of the Suns. That's right, a 23-point comeback win, capped off with a huge fourth quarter where everything went right. We will break down a much-needed win next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen late post-game on a Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday morning. Don't forget, Locked On Suns, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, so click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Solo show today. Just me. Ben is a DNP with an illness. He will be back hopefully tomorrow. But I was at PHX Arena, was right there for Suns Clippers, this comeback. So let's zoom in on our moment of the game. As always, to kick the show off, we'll get to Bud, Collin Gillespie, some of the numbers that ended up deciding this game, and much more. But this was the 9:57 mark of the fourth quarter. All right, so by this point, again, the biggest lead was 23. And by this point, the Suns had cut that down to 10. Okay, so keep that in mind. Like, the Suns started the fourth quarter with, I guess, looks like actually a 6-2 Clippers run. Yeah, wow, okay. Hold on. No. That's the third quarter. The fourth quarter began with 2 threes by Kevin Durant and a dunk, and then a Grayson Allen 3. So the Suns were on a run. It was a 19-point game going into the fourth, and they had cut it to 10. That's more like it. And then Mike Budenholzer calls a timeout Ty Lue calls a timeout to challenge a shooting foul on Nicholas Batum on, sending Mason Plumlee to the free throw line. It was kind of weird that Batum was even in there. I believe that was like one of his only stints of the game. And at that moment, so KD, again, he had 8 points of the opening run of the final period to kind of light a fire under the Suns that would propel them to this win. And he took it upon himself to demand more from the crowd, and so they're reviewing the Batum foul. Teams are kind of, obviously it's still a timeout, so they're, at their benches, whatever. KD goes to the basically center court scorer's table, and he's, pumping everybody up, eyes going across the whole lower bowl. He is engaging. It's not even asking. He was demanding more. And if you watch Kevin Durant, which all of us here in the Valley have for, going on 2.5 seasons now, you know that it's not the first time we've ever seen this from Kevin Durant. He often actually does this when he has to, unfortunately, miss games. If you watch him on the bench, he's hyping people up constantly. But it's rare when he's out there to see him do something like this. It just is. That's better, in my opinion. If you do this all the time, you're kind of a clown. If you're always, duking it out with the freaking fans, it's a little silly, but it meant something in this moment. And not only did the crowd react, but KD backed it up, and this team backed it up. And I just thought it was a very cool moment. The Suns obviously continue and end up outscoring the Clippers 43-22 overall in the fourth to win it by 2 and stamp out that lead. There was another moment, I believe it was at the 5-minute mark, I want to say. If I'm remembering right, it was a moment when KD went to the free throw line, if I'm remembering right, and then there was the shot at the, let's see, I think it was to take the lead, but I'm not seeing it. No, it was to tie it at 4:18. KD forced another Ty Lue timeout at that moment, and that was when he went to half court kind of, feeling himself and again, pumping the crowd up. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that this is here to stay. KD actually said, that this his encouragement, his communication, leadership with the team has been to actually not zoom out too much, not to be using the standings necessarily as motivation, or to, be telling yourself some kind of big story of we've lost this many, or this, we thought we were going to be this and now we're that, and so we need to prove something, just to really, really hunker down on the game to game. And so, I don't think they're going to sit here and say this fourth quarter proves we're this kind of team and the whole, stretch run's going to flip now and we're going to just start racking up wins and this is our time. I don't think it's going to be like that. And it would be crazy for me to tell you that it's going to be like that. It would be crazy for the players to tell you it's going to be like that. The reality is this might have felt different. This might have looked different, but it could end up being exactly the same thing. That's just the reality of the situation. And if you had asked me in the second quarter, in the third quarter, to recap this game for you, I'll just tell you, I was upstairs in the overflow media, which is a lot of the people who maybe aren't going to be writing, instant reaction articles or doing any kind of radio or anything like that. And they're more flexible to leave. I kind of fall in that category, but I don't leave. It was a ghost town in that second half. About half the people who were there at the beginning of the game had left because that's how ugly it was. The Suns were down 65-46 at halftime, and it was bad body language, turnover palooza, especially from Devin Booker. They're trying to execute a defensive scheme with a lot of overloading, whether that was on Zubats in the paint, in the post, whether that was, Harden on some of his ISOs or Kawhi on some of his ISOs, or, strategically leaving non-shooting players like Chris Dunn open, things like that. It wasn't working. It was a lot of the same Suns stuff that we've gotten used to. And if you had asked me in those moments to say, what's going on here, I would have said more of the same. Nothing to see here. But the fourth quarter did happen. And something flipped in KD to be more demonstrative and more, energetic and passionate than, in a big showy way than we typically get from anybody on any team. And they backed it up with their play, as did Durant. I don't know what to do with that, but I'm going to recognize it when it happens, and I do think it matters. I'll just throw this at you because I want to break down why, Mike Budenholzer deserves a lot of credit, the Collin Gillespie show, and a lot of other elements that went into this, the center rotation as well. But just, I don't know, tuck this away, because as much as I can't tell you that this will change anything as soon as Friday night when the Suns play the Nuggets, I also can't tell you that this thing I'm about to say really will matter. But I don't think it's nothing that Kevin Durant made a point of doing this with the home arena crowd tonight and saying all the things he said about Mike Budenholzer that I'm about to get to at a time when most people assume the season's over and he's gone, right? I'm not saying this changes his future. I'm not saying that this saves the Suns season. I'm not going that far with either of those things. But I think if anything changes between now and the summer, or even now in April when the play-in and the playoffs happen, if a miracle comes and those fortunes change, I can tell you right now this will be a game we remember. Let's talk about what else happened in that fourth quarter to complete the comeback next. First, today's show is brought to you by Open Phone. Running a small business means you're wearing all the hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just that one personal phone and personal number, and that's where Open Phone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, you get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others using AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll never miss a rundown of your calls or action items when you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss that opportunity to engage. So right now, Open Phone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you try it at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's openphone.com/lockedonnba for 20% off those first 6 months. That's openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. All right, we're rolling. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns Daily Newsletter if you have not already. We got great content from Katie Heindel and Mike Shearer analyzing the whole league at large for you every day. We also have Suns news, NBA news, fantasy advice tucked in there for you. Type your email address in at lockedondaily.com. It's free for you every day, and it supports us quite a bit. All right. Talked about the moment of the game, Kevin Durant getting animated, impassioned, and how different that felt. Let's get to the nuts and bolts of this fourth quarter, all right? Because another thing that Kevin Durant said that I alluded to at the end of that last segment was Coach Bud's adjustments were fantastic, and he deserves all the credit for the fourth quarter comeback, okay? He said it all started with him. Now, the other part of this that I did not talk about when it comes to Durant was that some of this was also some of his quotes, not the crowd stuff, but some of these quotes about Bud were incited because TNT cameras captured a moment between KD and Bud getting a little irritable with one another at one point during the down stretch of this game in the middle. And then later, Burn City Sports and 12 News both were able to capture the follow-up where Durant and Budenholzer came together again, got on the same page, patted each other on the back and kept it going business as usual. Katie was obviously not too pleased with the fact that the national TV cameras picked up the bad part and not everyone saw the makeup and the, compromise and communication that happened afterward. So some of that, I think, some of this, him talking Bud up, was a reaction to just go out of his way to give credit to the coach on a night where a lot of people might have had the wrong impression that there was a rift going on here, okay? So let's get that out of the way. But I don't think Durant is wrong. There's a couple things that happened here, all right? So beginning of the fourth quarter, let's see. When did Gillespie come in? Collin Gillespie came in at the 2:39 mark of the third quarter, technically. He played the rest of the game. So Bud stuck with him not only to start the fourth, but then for the rest of the game. Some of that is because Bradley Beal, I don't know what on earth is going on with the dude, but missed the past 2 games, or missed 2 games, then came back, and now is back to dealing with some sort of calf thing. 0 points, 0-4 in the first half, didn't play second half. Okay, so that leaves a hole at the guard spot in the rotation. Grayson Allen, of course, can fill some of that, but Ryan Dunn got a DNP. Tyus Jones was not effective. I mean, he got some assists, but was not making shots and just wasn't impacting the game. The Clippers are a bigger team, so he got benched in favor of Gillespie. So that's one, right? Just kind of pushing the right button at the right moment. For like, if you had just sort of asked me what this game needed, Suns are down 22 heading into the fourth. It's, I understand position-wise, like Beal and Tyus are guards, but I probably would have said, hey, maybe you try to throw a little bit more size out there to have got options against Kawhi and Harden, maybe so KD doesn't have to guard Harden, or just, match size with size. But no, Bud goes with Gillespie. That helps the pace. That helps have another kind of, high IQ ball handler on the court out there, which you're missing without Tyus or Brad. And it just worked. It was energy on top of that. It just worked. Gillespie has 10 points, 3 assists, and multiple big baskets down the stretch of this game. He had a righty off-glass layup late in the clock. He had an open right wing catch-and-shoot 3. He had a nice transition dish to Book. It was just a feel thing from Bud to push the right button. He easily could have also, forget any of the other stuff I said, he could have just gone with Ty Washington. I guess he wasn't active tonight, so maybe not. Oops, missed that. Or Monte Morris was the other place I was going to go, right? So, okay, that's one. Then, I mentioned the pumping up of the crowd from Durant, but another part of this was, as far as feel goes, so Grayson ends up getting a lot of minutes down the stretch. Bud is kind of rifling through Royce and Grayson as the other wing. Bol gets benched after the first quarter, I think first quarter. And then he's getting good minutes out of Plumlee is the other part of this, right? So this was one of Plumlee's better games of the whole season. 14, 6, and 4. Suns outscored the Clippers by 19 points in Plumlee's 25 minutes. They really needed his size against Zubac in particular, who had an absolutely enormous game, as he has multiple times against the Suns this year, 35 and 10, double-double. It wasn't even Zubac's physicality that you expect. It's also the freaking wingspan. The dude has these hook shots where it's like practically, it feels like a dunk or a layup because he just creates space. Maybe I should just compare it to the OG hook shot and just go the Kareem comp there. But whatever it is, that was why he was getting his shots off so well. And so Plumlee's a better option for a lot of the game, but Plumlee played a really long stretch all in a row. He checked into the game at the 5-minute and 25-second mark of the third quarter, and he didn't check out until about the 5-minute mark of the fourth quarter. So Bud just kind of ran him into the ground. He couldn't close the game with Plumlee. So then it's, what do you do? At times we've seen the Suns go really small against the Clippers. Early in the season, that was how they beat them, where they just said, okay, we don't have an answer for Zubac, but what we do have an answer for is we're going to score. And so Durant played the 5 in that game, and I don't remember exactly who all was out there with him. Do you do that, or do you go back to Nick Richards, who had a decent offensive night and was executing some of the defensive coverages that the Suns wanted to have that I mentioned earlier, but overall just could not match that length and size of Zubac? Bud went with Richards, and I would tell you that it worked. Zubac missed a bunny right around that point, and let's see. Let me see what he did the rest of the way. He had a 2, 4, and 2 free throws, so he had 6 points in the final 5 minutes, and I believe he had maybe 1 offensive rebound. Zubac. Actually, no, doesn't look like it. It looks like those 6 points, and I guess Plumlee did end up coming back into the game at the 2-minute and 33 mark. Richards came back at the very end. I thought that showed a level of gutsiness with the game in the balance, right? Again, 4 minutes, 55 seconds is when Richards checked into the game. The Suns were down 3. Still down 3. That was the one I was looking at. Right away, he forced a Zubac miss and cleaned up the defensive rebound. That's the play I was thinking of. Zubac did get his a little bit, but Richards also had a dunk in there. And so Bud was able to just get enough out of that spot. I think you would also have to factor in, they stopped being quite so aggressive down the stretch with some of those defensive things. So not only did you bring Richards back in, but you're not sending quite the same double teams. Harden, you let KD just try to exist out there on Harden. Harden did draw a 3-point foul on KD at one point, but KD got a good contest on him another time, and he flopped and didn't get the call. And then you had this element where Kawhi Leonard hit the minutes restriction in the fourth quarter. So he had to check out at the, 3-minute and 10-second mark. He had to check out. He hit 36 minutes. No, hold on. That's not right. That's the first quarter. These freaking play-by-plays, I swear to you, they jump around on me. 2-minute and 33-second mark, he left the game. And then he checked in for like the last 40 seconds because I think they were just hoping for a prayer. And he did make a shot there. But Bud, was able to stay small in part because of that. But Bogdan Bogdanović isn't exactly a tiny player, and the Suns didn't panic into matching that. So there were just all these beats of the fourth quarter where I would agree with Kevin Durant, even if he was trying to play nice with this coach and say nothing to see here when it comes to the, slow-mo replay of them arguing. The results speak for themselves, whether it was the rotation, the timing, the defense. Bud had his hands on the controls of this game in a way that I think you absolutely do have to give a lot of credit to him for the Suns being able to pull off this comeback. All right, let's close with a closer look at Collin Gillespie, as well as one category that put the cherry on top of that Suns fourth quarter next. First, today's show brought to you by BetterHelp. Who's in your support system? We all need people to lean on, whether that's friends, family, mentors, or professionals. Even the strongest leaders and athletes know that asking for help makes them better. Therapy is one of the best ways to build that strong support system for yourself. It's not just for tough times. It helps with setting boundaries, developing coping skills, and becoming the best version of yourself. Again, doesn't have to be an emergency, doesn't have to be some traumatic moment, some crisis in your life. It can be a tool, therapy, for self-improvement, stress management, or just navigating the challenges of everyday life. BetterHelp is your solution. It's fully online, easier than ever to connect with a licensed therapist from anywhere, and with over 30,000 professionals available, you got a lot of options. Find the right fit, and you can switch around. Find the right person for you at no extra cost. So build that support system with BetterHelp by visiting BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Here at the closeout, 119-117, Suns win. Big one, needed one, fun one, nice one to see. Two last things to get to. Bench mob vibe check here. I'm just going to return us to Collin Gillespie because, I mentioned when Ben and I did an episode for Tuesday looking at what do you want to see the rest of the season if the play-in and obviously the playoffs are a stretch at this point. And I said at the very end, I want to see one of the following players prove something, develop, take a step forward. Obviously, aside from Ryan Dunn, that list for me included Grayson Allen, who's not a young player, but is a vet that's had a down season. Can he put together a string of two-way performances that make you feel good? Oso Ighodaro, not so likely. I put Nick Richards on there. I'll continue to look at him. He had an interesting game. I talked about that a lot already. And the last one I threw as kind of a flyer was Collin Gillespie. And so far, that's looking good. I'm not here to tell you that Gillespie is some kind of full-time rotation player here or anything, but let's just put it into perspective, all right? Collin Gillespie has had a solid season in the G League once again. He did last season. He played 8 games for the Nuggets affiliate. This year, he's played 10 games for the Valley Suns in Tempe, and he has put up big numbers once again. 21 and 11 and 8, almost identical to last year. Now, his three-point shooting has been a little bit down this season. That's the big difference, but production-wise, it's right there where you would want it to be. And so he's kind of on this cusp, right, where it's like in baseball, you would call them like a quad A player, right? That's kind of like the term for it, where they're too good for AAA minor league baseball, but maybe they get to the majors and they can't quite cut it. They're in that no man's land. That's sort of where Gillespie is right now. He is, multiple years into his professional career. He is 25 years old, and it sort of has to happen soon. So nights like this are very promising, and especially because it wasn't some kind of Tyus and Beal and Booker are out, and he just gets spoon-fed minutes and puts up numbers. Like, he earned this in a pressure situation, doing more than just, filling up the box score. He was, again, confidently taking shots that were there for him, despite that comeback hanging in the balance. He was making the right play as a passer. He was at least the best thing I can say, because I didn't go back and, of course, watch the full game or anything before I hit record here. I give players a lot of credit if on the defensive end, when they aren't elite athletes or don't have elite size, hey, can I just not notice you? Can I not notice that you're the breakdown point, the weak point? And I would say I didn't notice that with him, despite, again, being out there as the smallest guy on the court on either team for most of the stretch he was out there. These are all very good things. I think that the Suns should give Collin Gillespie minutes the rest of the season to see what they have, or at least give him minutes until someone else shows you that they're worthy. If Ty has a moment, if Ryan Dunn gets back in there and they want to go big, I don't know what it's going to be, but for now it should be Gillespie. And, if you listen to this show, if you're an everydayer, you know how I feel, you know how Ben and I feel about this. Gillespie should just be getting minutes over Tyus Jones at this point. I mean, at some point. Maybe we're not there. Maybe that's too disrespectful. I don't know. But we're going to get to that point. And especially, we're looking at a game right now where Gillespie just flat out outplayed Tyus Jones. So that's not even a stretch of a thing for me to just say, hey, give the young guy the minutes because in the name of development or something. It's just, at this point, he's earned it. Last thing, turnovers. We obviously talk about them a ton here, and it felt like it was going to be another one where it got out of hand. The Suns had 11 heading into the fourth quarter, and they had a grand total of 0 in the fourth quarter. Now, I wanted to ask in the post-game press conference, where Gillespie spoke, Durant spoke, Bud spoke, what do you attribute that to? But I didn't end up asking because it's like, well, what are they going to say? We played better. But I would say that one element is that their defense locked down, right? They only allowed 22 points to the Clippers, and so what that means is if you're getting stops, if you're not allowing too many offensive rebounds, if there's not a lot of free throws, typically you're going to be able, when you get the ball back, it's going to be off of a miss or in some cases a turnover for the other team, and that's going to create more fluid, flowing offensive basketball for you, right? So I think that had a lot to do with it. If the Suns are able, I mean, that's been it sounds so obvious, right? Like, we're now, 130, 40 games into this Big Three era for the Suns. We could have said this about every game. Their best path to being dominant is to find a way to be a good defensive team, and that way we don't have a point guard. That conversation is less of one because whoever gets the rebound can just grab and go. Generating threes. Well, a lot of threes in the NBA today come on those opportunities. Oh, we turn it over too much. Well, if you're not attacking a set defense, then, transition, you're going to turn it over less. Like, all these things are all connected. They're all very obvious to anybody who likes the game of basketball. But tonight was a reminder of it, and I think that would be what I would answer of why it was different. Why did they not turn it over at all in the fourth quarter after, tossing it around the gym in the second and third, especially Book? I think that would be my answer. And it just goes to show, for even one quarter, what can happen when this team takes care of the ball. If you take care of the ball and you play even passable defense, the Suns will win a lot of games. There's not a lot left to win. This was game number 62. There's only 20 more. But I bet you if they can limit the turnovers, play decent defense, it'll take care of itself. There will be more nights like this. And even if the play-in stuff doesn't happen, even if they don't qualify, even if they don't make it, even if they stay at 11 or 12, more nights like this that are watchable and fun, sign me up. That'll wrap us up. Hit follow or subscribe if you have not already. We'll be back tomorrow. Ben and I both. We got some Mavs news that affects the Suns that I know we're going to dip into and much more. So, again, become an everydayer. Hit that button. We'll talk to you then.